Exciting weekend, everyone. Donald Trump gearing up for a big rally in Washington, D.C. as we speak right now. And all I can say is, you know what? There's a whole lot of changes coming our way. It's a good thing. We've waited 4 years for this, have we not? Welcome to the program. I am Trish Regan. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do. Hit the bell so you know when I'm here. This is sort of a live surprise show today as we wait for the president to begin that rally there in Washington, D.C. Make America Great Again. Never been a better tagline. And boy, the world is ready. I was just traveling overseas, and everywhere I went, I kept hearing the same thing. I mean, this is anecdotal, of course. I haven't done any polls in Italy. I haven't done any polls in Switzerland. But gosh, person after person after person kept telling me how excited they were for what was coming. The whole world is behind him right now. Just look at the numbers. Nate Silver, I think, had some poll numbers just this week. His popularity is higher than it's ever been. He is going into office with everybody, including those that didn't like him and didn't believe in him, now saying, you know what? Maybe this is what America needs. We'll talk all about that. But first, I have news for Leticia. Leticia James, watch out. Watch out. Like he's on to you. Okay? This came out moments ago. This is over on Truth Social. Donald Trump posting, what is going on with this totally corrupt New York judge? He was replaced until, quote, the bosses who have been after me for years found out about it. New York courts must be investigated. So what Donald Trump is talking about right here is that judge who in the Leticia James case decided, well, she wanted, what, 200 and some odd $1 million. That wasn't penalty enough. He had to come forward with nearly $500 million. Yeah, something like $476 or $486 million that he decided was the real penalty that they needed to hit Donald Trump with. All for why? Okay, just to back up for a second, because somehow the judge in New York, along with Leticia James, the prosecutor, the AG in New York State, thinks they both together collectively know better what something like Mar-a-Lago is actually worth. Right? Don't laugh. I mean, this is actually what they think. And he's quoting here Jonathan Turley, who is the law professor at American University and a Fox contributor, who wrote a piece saying Leticia James's case against Trump has done great damage to the New York legal system. And Jonathan Turley, he's right, because you have to believe in the integrity and the faith of the system. But when the system is all about getting Trump, which it so clearly has been, and what Leticia has based her entire career on, kid you not, right? I mean, this is what she ran on over and over and over again, this promise that somehow she was going to get Donald Trump. Well, then you've lost. You've lost everyone because, listen, New York City is a huge economy. That's the financial center of the world. For now, I could totally see it shifting. Don't forget, Texas is starting a stock exchange. And heck, everybody is moving to Florida. So this could shift, and especially when you factor in the idea that somehow you have corrupt judges and corrupt prosecutors, then you're really in trouble. What he's specifically referring to, just to back up for a second, is that there was a moment in time, there were like a couple of hours just the other day, and we reported this here on the Trish Regan Show when it happened, in which the judge was taken off of the case. And then somehow, mysteriously, like 2 hours later, they issued an edict saying, no, he's back on it. Well, what was that about? Really interesting. And no explanation. No, like, gosh, we're sorry. It was a typo. We screwed up. No explanation whatsoever. So is this corruption? Was this Kathy Hochul and Leticia James and the Judge Arthur going, whoa. No, we have to have him on this? Why do you have to have him on this? And by the way, where the heck is the Court of Appeals? I'm getting sick and tired of waiting for these people. They know damn well that there's no there, and yet they haven't done a darn thing. Think about that. What kind of corruption does that speak to? Here, let's go to the Court of Appeals. Remember the woman who's representing Leticia James, Judith Fails, she can't even get a word out before the judges are all over her. Why? Because they know, the Court of Appeals knows, yet they haven't done squat.
May it please the court, Judith Vale for the New York Attorney General's office. All of the defendants repeatedly violated—
Ms. Vale, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners, where the supposed victim had the ability and legal obligation to discover the allegedly misrepresented matters by conducting its own due diligence, where the supposed wrongdoer advised the supposed victim through written disclaimers to conduct its own due diligence and to draw its own conclusions, where the alleged misrepresentation almost entirely concerned inherently subjective valuations of properties and businesses.
Yes.
And where the victim never complained about any fraud in the transactional losses from it. Because I've gone through the cases which you've cited, and all of them always involved the consumer protection aspect. It involved protection of the market.
Well, several responses.
And I want to add to his question, and little to no impact on the public marketplace.
Ba-dum-bum. Okay, so in other words, this case never should have been brought. And the Court of Appeals, they know this. They know this, and yet we're waiting around here, and then they're switching judges in the lower court only to switch it back to Arthur because for some reason can't touch Arthur. No. Let me just remind you. There's a new guy in town. We are hours away from him finally, thank the Lord, becoming the President of the United States. We're going to have some normalcy return to the world. And these screw-ups in the court can't bother to issue their decision. Typically, it takes a month. That was back in September, late September. Seems to me we've been waiting way too damn long. Here's Pam Bondi. She was on Hannity's show back in August, and she sent a warning to everybody. Keep in mind, Ms. Bondi is now the Attorney General of the United States of America. She will be confirmed. They're all going to get confirmed. Even Pete, who should be. You know what? Fresh face. Let's start new. Let's clean house. Let's get real people in there with real ideas and new ideas. Here's Pam talking about how corrupt all of these people, including one Leticia James and apparently the judge, are.
Something else that's going to happen, Sean, is when Republicans take back the White House, and we will be back in there in 18 months or less, you know what's going to happen? The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated, and the House needs to be cleaned out because now we know who most of them are. There's a record of it, and we can clean house next term, and that's what has to happen.
She was asked about that. And of course, there are lawmakers, Democrat lawmakers, oh my gosh, who are you going to go after? Are you going to go after Liz Cheney? I'm guessing she's going to go after Liz Cheney. You're going to go after Leticia James. I'm guessing she's going to go after Leticia James. I'm guessing she's going to go after Judge Mershon and Alvin Bragg and Fani Willis and the whole lot of these people. By the way, Fani Willis just had her little case there. She was all mad that she got taken off because, she got disqualified because, Fannie had a few indiscretions on the way to the forum and by way of the guy that was working for her, and she paid some $600,000 to, which, she didn't realize you can't actually have a thing with the guy that's working for you with the taxpayer money. It's amazing. How stupid are these people? She didn't know this?
Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Okay, so she was not aware because barely, the wires aren't connecting fully upstairs for one Ms. Fani Willis, who, by the way, would be really upset to hear me calling her Fanny. It's funny, I believe.
While they over there running their mouth, I'm over here paying them no mind. See, I'm so tired of hearing these idiots call my name as Fanny in a way to attempt to humiliate me. Because like silly schoolboys, the name reminds them of a woman's rear.
Okay. Well, you could have changed it. Just saying. Anyway, Fanny doesn't have a whole lot going on upstairs. She didn't somehow realize that she couldn't have a fling, and so she got disqualified, and she got all mad because she got disqualified. And by the way, you get disqualified, it means the whole office is out with this case, and it would take years to reassemble. So basically, the whole case is DOA. So she takes that to the Georgia Supreme Court, and the Georgia Supreme Court just told her, no, you know what? It stands, right? You have been disqualified. You've been disqualified. Then you factor in, go back to New York for a moment, Alvin Bragg, where let's go to Jonathan Turley, who says, this is crazy. They didn't have a criminal case. And yet they went forward with a criminal case.
The fact is that this is not a criminal case in my view, because there's no underlying crime. Bragg took a dead misdemeanor, zapped it back into life as this pile of felonies. He essentially tried a series of federal crimes that the Department of Justice rejected. And he was only able to do that by this enabling judge. And I was not nearly as harsh on Juan Merchan until I sat in his courtroom. I was quite shocked with his rulings. I thought that they were well outside the strike zone and showed a lot of bias. But now the good news is that this case can be appealed in whole, and those decisions can be reviewed.
Yeah. That's because Supreme Court of the United States decided to kick that back to the lower court. That's the Alvin Bragg case. That case never should have been brought because they didn't have the jurisdiction, they didn't have a crime, and don't forget, the judge was like, multiple choice answer here when he told the jury the instructions, just pick anything you want, anything that will stick, because we want him to be guilty of something. Why? They wanted to be able to say he was a convicted felon. It's really gross. But the good news is Trump's onto it. And now he's calling out the judge in the Leticia James case, because what is going on there? Why did they take him off only to put him back on? That was really screwy, okay? Something's up. Something's up. Really big is up. I mean, Letitia says she's ready for all of it.
I will not fear Donald Trump. I have steel in my backbone. And the reality is I will not allow this person, Donald Trump, who unfortunately is a broken man, to get in the way of progress and to separate us.
You're doing the separation all on your own, right, hon? Right? That's what this has really been about, divide and conquer. I think about how the media has acted throughout all of this. And here we are now on the eve of the inauguration, and it's tremendous. I mean, considering what it took to get here. You know what the media did. They had nothing for Joe Biden to actually run on. Lousy economy, didn't seem to know what day it was. Miserable border situation, horrible situation getting us out of Afghanistan. Of course, then you had October 7th. Thank goodness, wonderful news, right? On the 3 women released today. So very good news on the hostage situation. But yet we have been dealing with a media for the last 4 years that tried to convince all of America that basically Donald Trump was the worst thing on earth. It was bizarre. Like really, really bizarre to see this. And it didn't work. None of it.
Of course, Trump is a Nazi time again.
Let's deal with Hitler, okay?
I don't think it's hyperbolic to say that. I mean, that is Mussolini, Hitler-like language.
Trump's affinity for Hitler was always covered under an umbrella of his stupidity.
Echoing Hitler's words.
Listen to this. Well, Hitler was duly elected.
That's right. Echoing the hateful rhetoric of Adolf Hitler.
It echoes Hitler.
That's the kind of language Hitler used in Mein Kampf.
About vermin and Hitler and Mussolini. That's a horrifying clip. That's a fascist clip. Just going full on Hitler. From Hitler's Germany.
We just need to say, for the record, that the term vermin was really effectively used by Adolf Hitler.
Echo dictators like Hitler.
Okay, all right. You get the picture. I mean, 4 years of it, right, guys? And not just 4 years of it, frankly, 8 years of it. We've been dealing with this since 2016. And Americans voted him back in. And not just the Electoral College. All right, let's be really clear. He got the whole kit and caboodle. He got the Electoral College and he got the popular vote. Incredible. I mean, really, really, really incredible in the face of everything, not to mention the 2 assassination attempts. I mean, wow, my God. And yet, all those lawsuits, nothing sticks, by the way, nothing sticks. It's not like, in the Hunter Biden situation where they actually got the goods and then, what happened? Daddy had to pardon him. Can you imagine if any of the Trump kids did anything close to what Hunter did? The kind of trouble he would be in, the kids would be in. Disgusting, the number of pardons that were issued by one Joe Biden. Anyway, I am disgusted in the court system in New York because I'm asking myself not just what Donald Trump is asking, which is why on earth are you taking a judge off and then putting him back on? I mean, who had anything to do with that? But where is the Court of Appeal? Where is their decision? Are they chicken? I won't say it, but you know where I'm going. Here's David Friedman asking the question. This is Judge Friedman again. He's one of the 5. They haven't come out with anything, but he gets it. He knows that this is all stupid. Why are we giving an attorney general like Leticia James so damn much power? It's messed up.
You're pointing to Ernst & Young. You're pointing to First American. Ernst & Young, you're dealing with the collapse of Lehman Brothers. First American, you're dealing with an action brought against an appraiser who overvalued properties at the behest of a lender perpetrating a scheme to induce unsophisticated consumers into taking out home loans that they could not afford. It hardly seems that justifies bringing an action to protect Deutsche Bank against President Trump, which is what you have here. I mean, you've got 2 really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money. And that was the point of my initial question. Every case that you cite involved where there was damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace. You've got a scheme to get unsophisticated consumers to take out home loans. You got a collapse of Lehman Brothers. You don't have anything like that here.
Well, first of all, Your Honor, the statute doesn't require that whatsoever for liability. And the statute is written broadly because the legislature wants the Attorney General to go in and stop fraud and illegality.
Counsel, I think you hear...
I mean, that's terrifying, right? In other words, if the statute is written that broadly, they get a whole other problem going on.
Underneath all these questions, the question of mission creep has 6312 morphed into something that it was not meant to do. And that's something you must address because there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in interfering in these private transactions, as Justice Friedman said, that where people don't claim harm. So what is the limiting principle?
You got no limiting principle? She thinks that she can go in there. I'll tell you, there is a limiting principle, right? You can't just do things for political reasons. And that is what Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and Kash Patel are going to get to the bottom of. Kash Patel going in as the director of FBI, I think he's going to get confirmed too. He's got all the qualifications in the world. It just so happens the Democrats are scared, you know what, about him because Kash is, he's not holding back. He's not holding back one single bit. He's already demanding that there be some kind of investigation into Judge Merchan. That's the Alvin Bragg case, the hush money case. Remember, because they got the conviction, they can say convicted felon. He's demanding that somebody look into just exactly what was going on money-wise behind the scenes between the daughter and the judge.
I mean, this is so unprecedented. It's just amazing that he would say that.
It's shockingly unconstitutional, Trace. It's great to be with you, and I'm here to announce on your show a measure that I'm working with Congress that should be Congress's bread and butter. And I'm calling for the subpoenas to be issued to Judge Merchan's daughter's company, who made $15+ million from the illicit information pouring out of her father's courtroom. I want to know the bank records because money doesn't lie. Yep. I want to know how deep it is and how much of it went to the family and how much of it is going to the family after this false conviction. And then we need to investigate the FEC actual violations that this judge and his family conducted, because he should never have been overseeing this trial to begin with because of the illicit campaign money that was flowing through there, and the unconstitutional due process violations are only the beginning. So America is calling for accountability of our judicial system, and Congress is the only lever that has it, and I'm hoping for one or two brave members of Congress that I'm talking to issue those subpoenas ASAP.
Okay, yeah, Letitia, I'd be a little worried if I were you. Judge Mershon, I'd be a little worried if I were you. Alvin Bragg, I'd be worried. Fannie Willis and the boyfriend, I'd be worried. Okay? Jack Smith, he did the right thing. He resigned in shame, although that was amazing, right? If it weren't for the judge in Florida saying, listen, you had no right to exist because your appointment was never approved by Congress to begin with, he'd be filing report after report after report. He tried to get his report out into the public. And she's like, yeah, no, not happening. Because you never had the authorization to be working on this report, this is Mar-a-Lago documents, to begin with. I mean, messed up. We need to make sure that this never, ever, 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 ever happens again, right? You can't have a system. It doesn't work that way. Meanwhile, as you well know, the inauguration has been moved inside. There were concerns about the weather. It is darn cold. We got a snowstorm coming along here on the East Coast. It's cold, okay? I got my turtleneck on. And baby, it's cold outside. And so Donald Trump put this out saying, you know what? We got to make sure that everybody's safe. And so because of the weather forecast in Washington, D.C., with the wind chill factor, taking temperatures into severe record lows, there's an Arctic blast sweeping the country. I don't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. And so because of this, they're moving it indoors. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, is it entirely weather? I mean, they did do this with Reagan, by the way, so there's precedent for this. But is it weather or is it other concerns? I mean, 2 assassination attempts on his life. I'd say whatever it is, we need to keep the president safe. That is critical. And a lot of people are really worried because Secret Service didn't necessarily kind of instill a lot of faith in their ability, shall we say, given what's happened in the past and given what they just said the other day. Let's listen to one of the Special Secret Service officers here.
So I would say what's different is we are in a higher threat environment.
What is the difference in comparison to the last inauguration or previous inauguration?
Last inauguration? Yeah. I would say we have a slightly more robust security plan. We've been planning for this event for 12 months, along with our partners. It's an ever-changing threat environment, and so we stay flexible. If we see that, hey, we need to shore this particular checkpoint up, we do that. So what's different? We've learned. This is our 5th NSSE this year in the Washington field office. We've done 83 NSSEs. Each one we take a look at, and if there's areas where we need to improve, we do it. But what I can tell you is that we are 100% confident in the plan that we have put in place for this inauguration, that the public and our protectees will be safe.
Okay. Well, you know what? I'll tell you a guy I trust a lot, who's a former Secret Service agent and just a wonderful, wonderful guy, my friend Dan Bongino. And he talked about this on his show. I want to play this for you because he's not thrilled with what he's hearing.
You're asking me, do I think the inauguration is safe? After yesterday's briefing, my answer is probably not. And it pains me to say that. Now, it's one of those things, I'm speculating. The inauguration, ladies and gentlemen, hasn't happened yet. I'm just afraid that the people in charge at the top of the Secret Service and certainly at the FBI do not know what they're doing. Let me just say this. I think if President Trump at this point, given the people in charge of the Secret Service at the top and their known incompetence, I think if President Trump were to stay in the car and forego the walk, I would be comfortable. I have not been briefed in on the security plan. I wish I was. I would like to review it myself because I've done it before and I want to see what they're looking at. I know exactly what it's supposed to look like. Now, here's the bad news first, okay? I said I'd get to it. The FBI, who I don't trust as far as I could throw. The FBI, this is very short. This is a manager at the FBI, obviously responsible for a portion of the inaugural security. Here he is saying that they're not tracking any threats. Do you really believe that there are no threats to the inauguration? Are you insane? Whatever the FBI says these days, I tend to believe the opposite.
We're going to get to TikTok in a second because that was on TikTok. And we can tell you it's been reinstated temporarily. But wow, Dan is right. I don't think he should do the walk. I mean, look, it's the whole thing is concerning, right? I think there's a fragility there that is just the reality of where we are. I mean, I hope it's changing in that you're not running the risk of the homegrown threats. I hope it's changing in that, we're dealing with threats that we knew existed, right, from Iran, et cetera. I pray for the president and his family. What's amazing to me is his bravery, his valor, the fact that like nothing stops him. He went back to Pennsylvania, the site of where they tried to take him down. I mean, it's amazing. And I don't know if you guys saw this, and it's a little bit weird. Okay, I'm just gonna, it's a little weird, but there's this pastor who, I don't even know if he has a church or anything. Pastor Biggs, have you guys heard of this guy who's considering him, Brandon Biggs, who's kind of this like quote unquote prophet? He, before that horrific event last summer in Pennsylvania, he actually claimed that he had seen some kind of vision of that. I'm going to go to his sound of him before that horrific event there in Pennsylvania, and I'll also clue you in on what he's warning now.
All throughout, and I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. This bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming.
Okay, so that was him talking about how he thought this might happen. And then the other day he came out with something where, again, he was a little bit worried. I take it with a grain of salt, okay?
Say it. And so these men were buying this fertilizer, and so they were storing it. And I saw massive dump trucks with separation of in the back of these dump trucks, separation with 50-gallon drums, all filled with different kind of chemicals to make what was happened in Oklahoma City back in the 90s. Okay? This happened in the 90s. And it was a massive thing, not black powder, but this fertilizer stuff. And I saw fertilizer in in a big dump truck. And the dump truck was like a big diesel. They looked like construction workers. They had purchased a massive construction vehicle, like dump truck thing, and they put all this in so that it would cause a major catastrophic event. So they made the front of it armor-proof, bulletproof, like you could not like shoot it and to make it stop it. So like very, very strong armor was on the front of this truck underneath it. So it wasn't able to be seen really well. Okay. And I saw these men, and this is going to go a lot of different places. Okay. So you have to just listen to what I'm trying to tell y'all. I saw these men with these vests on in the front cab of the truck, vest on, and they had explosives on these vests. And there was 2 men in the truck, and they took the truck and they used it to go through police barricade and military barricades in.
So he goes on to basically describe what he worries could be some kind of state-sponsored a la Iran attack executed by hundreds of infiltrators that had been smuggled into the U.S. So this is this vision, right, that he's seeing. And so, look, I think anyone who's in the security field right now needs to be on high alert. I mean, that would be for any inauguration. I was there in 16. I remember how the whole city was basically shut down, right? You could only walk here, there, and it was tough. I remember coming out of one of the inaugural balls. And of course, I'm dressed to the nines, and I don't know what I was thinking. Where were my sneakers? I'm in high heels, okay, very, very high heels. And I'm trying to get through the streets of DC, and you could only go this way or that way. Oh my gosh, it was such a mess. My feet hurt so badly by the next day. I'll tell you. Next time, note to self, bring a bag with some sneakers. But it was so locked down, as it should be, right? As it absolutely should be. So a lot of attention on this. We just want to get through the weekend and be very, very safe. We want to get through the next 4 years and be very, very safe. And we want all the greatness that can come from somebody who really is a leader, who's thinking outside the box. Speaking of thinking outside the box, did you see the news on TikTok? Okay, so I don't know as many of you are on TikTok, but I'm actually over there. We post a lot of my content there on TikTok. I did this in part because I wanted to try and understand the vehicle a little bit better. And you'll know, of course, that just Friday, which was, it's like the days are running into one another, just the other day, right? We had the Supreme Court come out, and this was unanimous. Like, they made a unanimous decision, 9-0, that TikTok had to be shut down because it was a security threat. TikTok was trying to argue freedom of speech. I'm sorry, it's not really freedom of speech because, let's face it, China doesn't have freedom of speech, and it's being run by the Chinese, all right? They don't allow X over there with Elon Musk. And I can tell you, again, personal experience, what gets through, what doesn't get through is very much about what China wants. Okay, they were all about promoting trans nonstop. If I said one itsy-bitsy little thing against that guy, that, forgive me, gal, whatever, I'm going to get into, Mulvaney, remember with the Bud Light thing? I was talking about it from a business perspective, just talking about, gosh, this really doesn't make much sense for Bud Light to do this. Boom, boom, community violation. And then they would just take it down altogether. It would disappear, it would go away. So it was like, oh, that's interesting. And they were really, they were just really into the whole trans thing and promoting that because, again, if you're China, why not? Why not? Why not create all kinds of confusion for these Americans and American youth? So that was promoted. You couldn't say boo about certain things. Well, by the way, if I talked about tariffs, my gosh, that was also a community violation. I was hurting somebody's feelings when I talked about, why not put tariffs on these Chinese goods coming in? Well, what do you guys think that was about? Okay, again, China's in charge. And I get it. There's American versions that say, well, we're in charge and this is our priority system now. But we have a little bit more recourse, right, when it's an American as opposed to Chinese. On top of it all, think of what's in your phone. All the past searches you've done. Do you ever have it happen to you where you're searching for something and then all of a sudden you get an ad for it in your Facebook feed? Well, there's a reason for that because you have to go way, 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 way into the back of Facebook and uncheck everything. Same thing with TikTok, so that they're not constantly monitoring you. Well, TikTok has all kinds of ways to monitor you. And so it is natural and understandable. And by the way, it was a 9-0. Everybody's in agreement, okay, with the Supreme Court that this was a security threat. But the kids are flipping out. Oh my gosh. I opened my TikTok account this morning and there it was. They said, gosh, we're shut down for now because the court decided this, but we're really hopeful that President Trump is going to come to some kind of solution. And he says he wants to. He's actually talking about a 50% ownership stake by the U.S. government, which is really interesting. I'm going to go with 51 for the record. I want 51%, okay, U.S. government. So I guess it would really be state media at that point, some kind of joint venture with state media, China and the U.S. I don't know. But here's Mike Waltz. He's the new head of our national intelligence, and he's talking about this on one of the weekend shows. I want you to hear what he has to say about TikTok. He's concerned about it. Yes, obviously it's a security violation, but he also gets that there are 170 million kids, let's call them kids, but people out there that are on TikTok that really like it. And so they've got to find some kind of way to massage this so that they're preserving it. They're preserving also, by the way, for investors, because a lot of investors have a lot of money in this, and yet still make sure that the Chinese aren't, digging deep into your phone.
I don't want the FBI looking at my passports. I don't want the Chinese Communist Party looking at my passwords, or what's going on in my data, or certainly not influencing 170 million Americans. But it is a fantastic app. It's something that 170 million Americans enjoy. And we're confident that we can save TikTok, but also protect Americans' data and protect them from influence, whether that's an outright sale, whether that's some mechanism of firewalls to make sure that the data is protected here on U.S. soil. That's what the president will be evaluating, and I'll certainly be helping from that from a national security.
So it's possible that China will still own that, and if so, isn't that totally capitulating to China?
No. It's not capitulating at all. Again, we can do both. Both can be true at the same time. TikTok can continue to exist, and whether that's in American hands, owned by an American company, or whether the data and the algorithms are fully protected from Chinese interference, there's a number of, I think, of formulas this could take. But the point right now, Donna, is let's get the president some time to make that decision.
So it's back on. It's back on. It's back on for now, and we have President Trump to thank for that. And he's coming to some kind of decision to see if we can make this work so that we still have TikTok, but we don't have it completely controlled by the Chinese. I mean, remember, X is not allowed in China. Maybe this is the negotiating thing, right? You get a little bit of leverage. You know what's interesting? He did come out just earlier today and say that he would like to sit down with President Xi. I mean, he's right out there. And I commend him for this, because I'm sure there's like people in the State Department going, oh no, why did he say this? Look, he's saying this because China is our enemy, and he's trying to figure out how do we deal with our enemy. He's very good at trying to sort of massage these things. I want to just go to this graphic right now that I have. Here he is saying just earlier today, I spoke to Chairman Xi Jinping of China. The call was very good, a very good one for both China and the USA. It is my expectation that we will solve many problems together and starting immediately. We discussed balancing trade, fentanyl, TikTok, and many other subjects. President Xi and I will do everything possible to make the world a peaceful, safe place. So really something to see there from Trump, a pretty magnanimous gesture. Of course, Xi's not coming to the inauguration, but he did send a top deputy, which was also seen as a way to kind of help bury the hatchet to a certain extent. And they have a lot at stake. I mean, he's talking about putting a lot of tariffs in. And China doesn't like that, right? China's economy is actually not doing so well right now. And if you suddenly slap tariffs on everything, that means, well, we're not getting as many cheap things. A lot of people freak out about that. What I would tell you, and you know what, coming up in just a short bit, I'm going to be on my 76 Research channel at 76. If you're in the chat, I'm going to actually put this here for you so that you can see it, because Rob is going to join me at 76 Research, teeny little channel that we have right now, but a wonderful research outlet. You can go to 76research.com. I'll put that in here too. Use code word dollar, you guys, because then you can get the research for just $1 a month for the first 2 months, or after that it goes to $9.95. You can cancel anytime. So hey, no harm, no foul. But we'll talk about this a little bit more. In terms of tariffs, yes. Okay, so if we slap on these 25%, which is one of the things that he's talked about, tariffs on goods coming in from China, it means that yes, cost of goods are going to go up. But it will also mean that we're going to start looking for more sourcing here in the United States, which does what? It means more jobs here in the United States. And so there is a temporary inflationary effect until, of course, you find those goods that you can source from here, or you just deal with the reality, because the tariffs aren't really going up, that you have sort of a new price structure in place. It's tricky. It's going to be his hardest thing, I think, to try and get a handle on inflation. But if there's anyone that could do it, believe me, it's Donald Trump. He's got 100 executive orders he's going to be unleashing on day one. One of them will be including going and rounding up illegal migrants that are here in this country. He's starting in the city of Chicago that's just crime-ridden, and he wants to make sure he's getting the illegals out. He's got 200 ICE agents that are going to be hitting the streets. You know Tom Homan, he means business. He's running the whole operation.
One estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is that worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
You gotta love him, right? That's Tom Homan. He's your new border czar, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, here's another goodie from Tom from a couple years ago.
First of all, your comments are disgusting. I've served my country.
I've served my country for 34 years.
I find your comments this is out of
disgusting
control.
as well.
I've served my country for 34 years, and yes, I held a 5-year-old boy in my arms. In back of that tractor trailer, I knelt down beside him and said a prayer for him because I knew what his last 30 minutes of his life were like, and I had a 5-year-old son at the time. What I've been trying to do my 34 years serving my nation is to save lives. So for you to sit there and insult my integrity and my love for my country and for children, that's why this whole thing needs to be fixed. And you're the member of Congress.
We agree on that.
Fix it.
We agree on that, but I disagree. But I also disagree with your characterization of immigrants as prone to criminality.
People for 3 decades on this.
Gentlemen, time is.
Look, you want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get to go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
So the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
parents. If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father from his family. Mr.
Homan, with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum and go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So Tuesday is the day, and he's got his whole team into action. He talked about it on Fox just recently. Let me play this clip for you.
Am I blowing your cover when I announce that there's going to be a big raid in Chicago on Tuesday? Or do you want people to know? Maybe they can self-deport.
There's going to be a big raid all across the country. Chicago is just one of many places. We got 24 field officers across the country. On Tuesday, you're going to expect ICE. ICE is finally going to go out and do their job. We're going to take the handcuffs off ICE and let them go arrest criminal aliens. That's what's going to happen.
All right. So Tuesday's a big day. Tuesday's a big day in more ways than one. Listen, 100 executive orders going into action on Tuesday. And what is the first thing that Donald Trump said he wanted to do? It was to secure the border. So you can expect that he's going to be securing the border. We also got to get those tax cuts renewed, right? The Trump tax cuts, which are set for expiration. He's got to do some wiggling around with the Republican Party on that one because everybody kind of has their hand out for something. But again, I think if there's anyone that can do it, it's him. Mike Johnson, maybe not, but you know what? The pressure's on Mike. He better pull it together. There's a lot that's going to happen. And you know what? It needs to happen for this country right now. I think the optimism that we all feel is really infectious. I think it's going to be a terrific, terrific display tomorrow for the inauguration. We're going to see a great rally from the president tonight. Ahead of that, I'm going to be over on 76 Research with my dear friend, my colleague who started 76 Research with me, Rob Horton. That's going to be happening in about 5 minutes, guys. So if you can, make sure you go over, subscribe to 76 Research as well. Subscribe to this. Go check out the website, 76research.com. But we are on YouTube at 76 Research. Investinmaga.com is the free guide, totally free, because I'm telling you, there's great stuff that's happening and you want to be part of it. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about what Treasury's doing. We're going to talk about what Trump's doing. We're going to talk about the crypto initiative actually coming up right now on 76 Research. So I encourage you guys to go over there. If you have not subscribed to that, then please do it. Steve, I'm reading your comment right now. Did Jesse leak the ICE raid in Chicago? No, I think that was kind of out there. They were talking about doing this. And in some ways, I think they do actually want to telegraph this. They want to telegraph it because they need to send a message. Some people have said, well, I hope they only go after the criminals. I suspect they're trying to get the bad guys, but there's going to be some other people in there too, because again, this is being sort of used as a message that America's not going to tolerate this anymore. So you guys need to stop flooding the border. Effective immediately. It is good to have you. Really good to have you all here. I see a lot of new faces. I'm not normally here on a Sunday. So please do me the favor of subscribing. Subscribe. If you haven't done it, do it now. Subscribe and hit the bell so you know when I'm here live. I'm here live for the full show every single day, Monday through Friday, with a few special appearances along the way like today. It is great to have you, and I will see you momentarily right now over at 76 Research on YouTube. Go there. The handle is at 76 Research. Be there in 5 minutes. See ya.